Sweet Georgie Brown.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, looking all sharp, man. I feel like I'm on a job interview.
Yeah, you never know. You could be.
Awesome, man. So we got George Brown here with us. He's a mascot coordinator, amongst other things, throughout his career. Me and George go way back. It's got to be what, 15, 16 years. When did we started over there? What, 05, 06 season?
05, 06, yeah. So it's got to be longer than that, yeah.
Yeah, geez. And so I was a videographer and a video producer, doing all the video stuff, and you were the mascot coordinator, aka Stormy the Ice Hog, and we worked together quite a bit. And that first season, dude, was nuts.
It was insane,
dude. Our first year. Our first year, and we go all the way with. First of all, the team came out of the whole league came out of a lockout. So they missed a complete season. There's a full season of NHL hockey that never happened, and that was the 04-05 season. So we came in and we worked the 05-06 season, and that's when we met, and we did the whole season green. Like, all of us were new. Like, everybody was, and we end up winning the whole thing, man.
Rod Brind'Amour, I'm proud to present this to you. And the Stanley Cup has been presented to Rod Brind'Amour. He is hoisting it high. He is showing the emotion of a man who has worked all his life.
Do you remember when you and I actually met?
I do, and I didn't even realize you were who you were. That you were.
That's I remember that. I think we've talked about it a couple of times, but I don't know if you remember that. So
we were doing I was doing a shoot. Again, I'm green as hell, and this is one of the first shoots that Pete Soto put me on my own, where I got to cast it, direct it, everything. I was on my own. He wasn't there, and I had a bunch of actors, which consisted of like the Storm Squad girls, and then you were there. And I was just like, okay, I and you cracking all kinds of jokes. I'm like, who is this wise ass guy? But we got along, we hit it off, and then later on, I found out that you were Stormy, and I was like, oh shit, you're Stormy.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah, that was like, no wonder, because I remember you had like a funny hat on too. You wearing like a jester's hat or something, and I was like, nah, that's why he likes costumes. That's why he came dressed in a costume. So tell me, like, because a lot of people have this notion that mascotting is easy, that anybody can just jump in a suit and do it. But there's way more than that. That's like saying being a comedian's easy. That's like saying that anybody can do it. It's like saying being a clown, like a circus clown performer, is easy. None of these things are. But explain to people what it takes to be a mascot and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing people don't understand is the time commitment that comes with it, because they think about the games that they go to. So I mean, if you're thinking of an NHL mascot, you think of when you see them in the stands on the ice, maybe pregame, maybe up for a second, and then everybody just thinks it's a complete party after that. But what really comes down to is, I mean, there's office hours. I mean, it's for most places, it's a full-time job. And on top of those office hours, you're talking appearances, for birthday parties, parades, weddings, things at churches, community events, initiatives that the team has. So, I mean, there's the one big thing that you got to understand is the actual time commitment that comes with it. Again, just because that is the biggest part of it. It's a whole lot of your free time.
Because you'll be working weekends. Like weekends, game nights, and then special events, holidays. So, especially if you're in a smaller market and you're the only mascot, like some guys there's like two, so even bigger ones will have three. But if you're the only one, and you got nobody to like you talk about time commitment, that's like
I mean,
Crazy.
I tell people the story of, so that first year, Stanley Cup year, 05, 06, I was supposed to be in one of my buddy's weddings. I was supposed to stand in his wedding, and the playoffs kept happening and kept happening, and I didn't get to go to his wedding. I was one of his groomsmen, and I could only tell him a few days out because, because of the situation, and he understood it. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to. I felt terrible backing out, and I'm sure he wasn't the happiest with me at that time, and probably still not to this day. I mean, my own wedding. People plan their wedding, how far out? Well, being a professional mascot, we had to sit there and plan out our wedding so it would be at least a few days after the last possible Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Um, just because you have to sit there and say, if we go all the way, if it goes to the last possible day of the season, when could I actually get to this wedding and then have some time? So I mean, it's I've missed a lot of family functions. I missed a lot of things with my friends and things like that, because I mean it's a huge time commitment. Which you get some pretty cool things in return, but you do miss a lot.
Is it worth it? Would you do it all again?
Uh, I mean, the crazy thing is, I know you and I kind of talked a little bit before this. So the crazy thing is, I'm still doing it some now. Um, no full-time commitments anymore, is the good thing, but so I still do it, but I do it on my own schedule. If my family and I are going to go to Disney, I don't have to plan Disney around mascotting anymore. I plan mascotting around Disney.
Right.
So would I do it full-time again? Where I am age-wise now, no. If I could go back and change anything, would I change it? No. Before being an NHL mascot, I was with the Harlem Globetrotters. I've walked on the Great Wall of China. I've seen Sydney, Australia. I've been all over the world and got paid to do it in a safe environment. So would I change anything? No, it's a part of my story, and it created the person I am now. So wouldn't change anything if I went back, but at this point, probably not going full time.
Right. Yeah, man. I'll say that aside from the time commitment, which you do have to, you have to be fully invested and passionate about doing this to, sacrifice time like that and to give like you do. And I've worked, in with various teams and franchises through the years now, and with a variety of mascots. They're all nice guys, and if they're watching this, nothing against them, but you do stand out as one of the best. You're the measure for me when I look at other mascots, and you've proven yourself, because there were times when I've seen you in other costumes and bring those characters to life. You're just great in suit. You're great out of the suit too, but in suit, yeah. But in suit, you're great. You brought to that Stormy character what nobody else can. It takes a special person to really bring these characters to life in this way. And I've got to work with you numerous times all over the place, whether it was the NC State Fair, which is like one of the biggest fairs in the country, America, and it's this huge fair. They don't have them like that in New York. We have like these Italian feasts here, but the fair at the NC State's like the ones. This is for my New York audience. These are like the ones you see in the movies. These are like, like The Notebook where he's hanging on the thing. Those kind of fairs. And Stormy would have, like, he was like the Beatles. Kids would be running around, and you knew how to handle all of that. So with the talent wise of it, what does it take? What like if you were looking to hire a mascot, what are you looking for?
It's the weird thing, and it's a very vague question, but it's very specific. Is you're looking for the right person. What you're looking for is somebody who can bring a particular character, a particular brand to life, because different suits really should act in different ways. Myself and Stormy, there's not another costume that I've done, and I've been on a ton. There's not another suit that I've done that I actually matched up as just perfect with that one. So you need the right character for the character. If that doesn't sound absurd. Um, and you want somebody who can separate themselves from the character. They've got to be two separate things, because if Stormy and George, or George and Stormy, start merging, um, it gets weird. It's kind of hard to explain, but there has to be a clear separation. And people laugh when they see me in costume, because they're like, 1 second, you're George, and you're this, and then a light switch flips, which is 100% the truth. And you want that out of a character. You don't want somebody who's always on. You don't want somebody who feels like they have to always be on. You want to be performing when you're performing, and bringing your energy into it then. But again, a specific character needs a specific kind of person in there. There's so many characters that are awesome characters that I think are awesome, and performers that I think are awesome, that do great jobs, and we're completely different. And so it's you have to match that person performer up to that actual character. I mean, it's weird.
It's a valid point too, because like you said, you nailed the Stormy. To me, I think every other Stormy has to measure up to you, and what you did with the character. You did the character for like what, over like 12 13 years, 15,
it ended up being 13 full seasons.
Yeah, 13 full seasons. And but you look at other characters, right? Like what was it, the Atlanta James over there.
Yeah, Thrashers.
Yeah, so the Thrasher, I don't, what, like, is that your, I can't see you doing
I couldn't have done that,
because the Thrasher was,
that. And that's exactly it right there. And he and I are really awesome buddies, and he and I both, being North Carolina guys, we actually both did minor league baseball together. And we had a similar style in minor league baseball, but we're still different. But I mean, what he took the thrash is completely different than I could have. But the look of that suit, I don't want to say it had more aggressive, but I mean, he had more. Stormy's the more lovable, kind of funny dude, and Thrash, is the guy who would take your jersey over your head if you needed to, and pound you.
I've seen him do that. Yeah,
exactly.
Way more aggressive. Yeah.
And I couldn't have done that. Like that is something that I wouldn't have brought to it. But it was like perfect. I saw it and I'm like, that's Thrash right there. So yeah.
That's a good contrast. Is like Stormy and Thrash are the two types of yin and yang of what you want in a mascot. You got the cute, lovable one who's funny and will mess with you and stuff, and then you got Thrash, who's way more aggressive. And
but still did the awesome stuff, like with the Men in Black and stuff. Like he did all those random, there's so much stuff he did that was just perfect for that character. That again, it's just not my style, but that's a good thing. Like he was perfect for that, and I was perfect for Stormy. So.
Now, also with the world of mascotting, when was your first time you put on a suit, and did you realize that this was the beginning of a career, or did you even know it was a career option, or how did you get started?
So the crazy thing is, so again, I'm a North Carolina guy. Funny enough, the friend whose wedding I was supposed to be in, he and his brother were, there's two brother mascots for the minor league baseball team where I'm from. And one of them, the older brother, was going to go off to college. So they needed somebody to kind of start filling in, when he was gone. And I was like, all right, well, cool. And the reason it kind of even became like got discussed was we were both in marching band together, marching band kids. We can be weird, we can be quirky. But so during band practice, band camp, whatever it was, I was messing around and I ended up just doing the worm. Never knew I could do the worm before in my life. And the first time I did it, I somehow nailed it. So that transferred into him sitting there going, oh, you know, you should come and mascot with us. You know, you should do this. So I was 14 years old. And my kind of, you know, I remember going to the baseball field and saying, hey, I'm George. You know, I talked to these other two guys. They said I should come here and try to be a mascot. And the first time I put on that character, I went to the local mall. I'm from Winston-Salem. If anybody knows Winston-Salem, Haynes Mall. And I did my first appearance there. I grew up as a kid. I think I've told you this story. I grew up afraid of mascots. In Winston-Salem, I was afraid of those mascots. Not when I was like 14, so, you know. But for the longest time, I grew up afraid of mascots. So it's kind of crazy that I ended up wearing one. But yeah, it started then at the age of 14. And the first person who actually kind of let me know that being a professional mascot actually existed was the original Carolina Panthers mascot. We were at an appearance together at a church, and he said, hey man, you know, you're a pretty good performer, you know, this and that. And he kind of started talking to me about it. And I remember we're just kind of in this back room of the church, and I'm like, so hold on, this is the only job you have? Like, this is what you do? And he said, yeah. And from that moment on, I changed from wanting to be an optometrist to being a professional mascot. So huge career change.
Come on, come on, come on. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go.
But yeah, that's I never knew that there were people who were just professional mascots. I'm a kid getting paid, you know, $50 whatever dollars per game. I'm thinking everybody's like that. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Awesome, man. Yeah, because then you went from there. You worked minor league baseball for a bit. Then how'd you get to the Globetrotters? Because that's a big jump. I mean, that's to me when if I would think that once you got the Globetrotters, you're a Globie now, and you're traveling the world. That you were thinking this may be as good as it's gonna get. This is it. I'm gonna do this forever.
Yeah. So I once I started mascotting, I never stopped, and I guess I can say even to, you know, to this point that I'm at now. So while I was doing my minor league baseball thing, like I got on with Chick-fil-A, and like for the area, I was their #1 Cal, not going to like restaurants, but like when the ACC tournament was in town, I was going there. I was going to, you know, college games and like bigger events. Pretty much within about an hour and a half drive from my house, sometimes 2 hours, I would fill in for any mascot, and I got well known for doing all that. But then, like, you know, everybody in the world, you know, feels they got to start college. So, you know, graduated high school and start college, go into sport management, and I stay in Winston-Salem. I started at Winston-Salem State. And while I was there, since I was in sport management, I said, you know what, I want to intern with the team that I've been working with all this time. And while I was interning, I searched for mascot stuff and, you know, tried to find out as much stuff as I could. And I saw a post from the Globetrotters, and it was way late, that they were looking for somebody. I was perfectly in the middle of their height requirements, their weight requirements, like everything. So I look and I see their schedule. I'm like, they're already on tour. You know, it's too late. But I said, you know what, I'm going to send them my information. Here's my resume. And I said, you know, if you ever need somebody, I'd just love a shot. And I was sitting there at my intern desk one day, and the phone rang, and I thought it was somebody playing a joke on me. And they were like, I can't remember the person's name who called me, and it's, you know, hey, I'm calling from the Harlem Globetrotters. One of our mascots got injured. Would you be interested in coming on tour? And I said, okay, let me check my schedule. And I kid you not, because I thought it was a joke. And I said, well, you know, when would you want me to start? And, you know, they said, well, hold on, let me put you on hold. And they put me on hold, and Sweet Georgia Brown started playing. And I was like, oh, this is actually the Globetrotters calling me. So, you know, that was a Monday, and that Wednesday I flew out. I joined them in Birmingham, Alabama. Never been on a plane before. That was my biggest fear, was flying. Flew into Birmingham, watched the show there that night, and they said, you know, watch it tonight, and tomorrow you're going to be in. I said, okay. And they said, you know, we'll give you a week. at the end of a week, you're either going to stay on tour or we're going to give you a ticket back home. And I didn't realize that I was still on tour until about 2.5 weeks later. You know, I was like, oh, I guess I survived. But I mean, that was crazy. But I mean, the whole time, even when I came back home from tour, I would still try to do stuff with my local team, just because I wanted to keep my resume going and all that. So I did, you know, around the US, I did a couple international tours. And then I decided like I wanted to not be on the road nonstop. I wanted to have a normal, you know, building or field to be at. And actually, the person who ended up with the Thrashers was the one who actually told me about the Hurricanes job. And from then on, I guess you could say the rest is history. So
that's freaking awesome, man. And you know, doing something like, you know, you've done a lot of high profile mascotting, but with you know, here you are with the Harlem Globetrotters, you're you know, still a young guy, still figuring it all out, and now you're starting to tour, and it must have been like traveling with the circus, kind of. You're just going to city, country to country. But it must have been a good training ground though too, to learn. Did you get any advice? Is there any mentor?
So the best advice I got was actually from a guy, Clyde Sinclair, actually another North Carolina guy. Went to school in North Carolina, played basketball in North Carolina. He was actually one of the coaches when I was on tour.
My name is Donald Sinclair. 9番ドナルド・クライド・シンクレア。高校時代はバスケットとソフトボール両方の花形プレイヤー。ディフェンス力チームナンバー1のガード。One of the great NBA guards in the NBA named Walt Frazier.
But he was a former Globetrotter. And he took me under his wing and kind of gave me, you know, the road, you know, how the tours go. Cause I mean, I joined in the middle of a tour. So before every tour, there's typically, you know, a training camp and all this. You learn the new dances, you learn the whole show. And I didn't get that opportunity because I came in, I saw it one day, and then the next day I was in.
There's an advantage to that too, though, right?
There is,
because then the expectations are like there's a little more leeway. Well, he wasn't with us from the beginning, like, you know.
Yep. And I actually worried at the end of that tour that they were going to try to replace me, just because, you know, I didn't know where I really stacked up. But you know, again, I was lucky enough to go on a couple international tours. I actually ended up going back to back. I went on one international tour and was supposed to have, I think, a few weeks off, but the other mascot actually quit. So I went on one international tour. I think I was home for 3 days and then I was back out. And it was all a blur, but it was, I mean, some of the craziest and best experiences I've ever had there. Yeah.
Cool. So I interrupted you when you were talking about the guy who mentored you. So
oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I mean, he was just one of those guys who, because I mean, again, I was probably 20 years old when I was on tour. Probably 20 years, might have been 19. I was young, and he made sure that I didn't do anything overly crazy, and I kept my head on straight, because I mean, I went from making, you know, money, you know, single A baseball game by game and appearance by appearance and a little bit of intern money and living in an intern apartment, to having a pretty decent salary really fast, and a pretty decent salary with not that many bills. So he kind of kept my head on straight, you know, making sure that I didn't go too wild out there, you know, that everything was kind of done within reason. And I mean, on the professional side as well, you know, just making sure that I knew what I needed to do. And I mean, he kept me in check really well.
Cool.
And he still is in North Carolina. I see him every now and then. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there you go. So
yeah.
Now, and that's the thing too that I wanted to talk about, is the camaraderie amongst the mascots. I mean, you guys, I've been around, I've hung out, you know, I've been, I wouldn't say I was in the mascotting world, but I feel like I was accepted by the mascots, and you guys brought me in to some stuff, and I got to see you guys interact, and like when you would have the Stormy birthday party and all the mascots would come to town, and then like afterwards everybody would go out and party and stuff like that. It is a pretty tight-knit group of mascots, and there is a camaraderie there. What would you say about like the friendships you made and that kind of that camaraderie amongst you guys?
I mean, I'll start by saying, a whole lot of people, it's a very small group. And it's a very, I mean, you think about there's how many professional sports, sports teams, we'll break it down to the NHL, and not even every NHL team has a mascot. So you're talking about a small group of people who are very similar and like-minded. And it's rare to find a group of people who could honestly, you could have been born from the same parents because you're all cut from the same cloth like that much. And that's what it comes down to. And I mean, I will preach it every single day. The NHL group of mascots has always been, and I believe will always be, the most tight-knit group and the most fun group you'll be around. I've got buddies that are in the NFL, MLB. I've got buddies all over the place, and a whole lot of those guys like to hang out with the NHL guys because we were always a good time, and they still are a very good time. In my wedding party, when I got married, so my brother was my best man, and then I had 3 groomsmen as well outside of my brother. So my brother, best man, and 3 groomsmen, and they were all mascots. I had Texas Rangers, I had Thrash there, I had NC State, and who used to be my backup. But I mean, I had the person who was Charlotte Checkers. I had the Washington Capitals mascot there. Buffalo Sabres mascot was there. I know I'm forgetting some people, but I mean, like, it's really one of those things of it's a small and it's a tight group and a tight world. The guy who was Thrash, he and his wife are expecting really soon now, like any day now soon.
Awesome.
And it's funny, I didn't get to actually get on since COVID's going on and all that right now, or hopefully dying down. But since all that's going on, they did like a virtual baby shower thing, and I didn't get to get on there because I was mascotting, go figure. But they did a virtual get together, and it was funny. Like, there were, all these other people. And then I was like, oh, like the guy who's currently the St. Louis mascot, like it's just one of those funny things of it's such a tight group. Again, the NHL is very tight. And then even outside of that, I mean, it's a bigger bubble. But I mean, we can see each other once or twice a year. When you're actually currently in the league, you see each other once or twice a year, but you feel like you saw the guy yesterday. And when you get together, you have as much fun as you can during that time. But we've never lost contact with each other, and it's a beautiful thing, because I mean, those guys are some of the best friends you could have in the world. I got stranded, funny enough, in an airport, or I was flying from, I can't remember or where I was flying to. I was flying back, and I got stuck in Atlanta because my next flight got canceled, and I was able to make a phone call and go stay at Thrash's house. And I feel confident that most anywhere I travel, if something happened, I got stuck in an airport, I could make a call and one of my buddies would be there to pick me up, and I could stay overnight. Yeah,
man. That's what's awesome about having the brotherhood like that, whether it's with mascots or just, in the sporting world in general. Mm-hmm. All the networking and friends you make along the way. And you can, I feel like this, I could go to any city And if I wanted to just make a phone call and could go to the game at least. I don't know if I could stay at people's, like, I don't know if I have that tight with people, but I could definitely get tickets to probably any game I ever wanted to go to.
Oh yeah. And if you can't get a ticket, they could probably walk you in the back door.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
man. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I remember one time Nathan from the Mudcats picked us up in a bus. Remember he had like a mini bus and he came and picked us up and showed it off, and we got in this bus and we just had a blast, man. We just cruising around town and like hanging out with the mascots. And Nathan also he had the Sweetwright brothers, and he had like a little guy with him. And man, it was just awesome hanging out with you guys, man. It's always cool with the mascotting and working with you through the years and doing all this stuff. And there's rules to mascotting, just like there's rules in stand-up comedy, just like there's rules with to bring it up again, like with circus clowns, like the makeup, you can't wear the same makeup as another clown, stuff like that. These kind of like little rules. There's rules to mascotting too, like you can't talk and stuff. Walk me through a couple of these kind of rules that are just off the top of your head.
One of the biggest things, I mean, is obviously it kind of goes back to that separation of, there's the character and there's you. So kind of keeping those separate. Not talking obviously is a main one, just because.
And there are some that do talk, right? I mean,
they are, but they're it's one of those weird things, just because people don't expect it. And I personally, I'm not a fan of mascots talking, just because, I left Stormy, and if somebody else talks completely different than I do, it's if you took over Stormy after me, people are going to notice. I talk like this and you talk like that. Like, I mean, it's just
exactly.
So I'm not a big fan of it.
No, I like the not talking. Also, I like the mime style where the mascot literally has to communicate sometimes through almost like miming skills. Yeah.
Yep. And one of the new things that I think if it's not considered a rule, should be considered a rule by more mascots, is to not necessarily put yourself and your beliefs into the character. The character is, characters are pretty middle of the road. I tell people, like, a mascot isn't, Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's, they're everybody's mascot. A mascot is not something that should be like divide any group. Their big focus should be, the team. So I think that's one of the big things that performers got to understand is, you can believe what you believe, and have those strong feelings, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you and the character are separate. And yeah, it's one of those weird things, but
no,
I've seen mascots that have literally gone up, for just local politics, and it's one of those things that I just don't like, just because, again, if you and I see different politically, and we end up wearing the same suit, you don't need to go on stage with one guy and then next thing, 2 years later, during another election, I'm over. Mascots got to be more middle of the road, which some people might have a problem with me saying that. I'm sorry, but it's one of those things of everybody should be able to love this mascot for what they are, not for their own personal beliefs.
Exactly. Unless you're like a donkey or an elephant, then maybe
which you're just stuck then.
But yeah, I mean, also, like, I know it's like I said, I keep comparing it to stand-up comedy. I've been dealing with a lot of comedians over here, working with Governor's Comedy Club on Long Island, and so I look at like signature moves, and like some mascots might borrow and take like a signature move. Like, let's say the worm, that's something that's a Stormy kind of signature, something you've been doing for years. If you saw another mascot doing the worm, and maybe the worm's a little bit more broad of an example, but like, whatever the signature move is, what is the, like in comedy, if you steal jokes, you're labeled a hack and it could ruin your career or whatever. Or you just get like, you just get labeled a hack forever. And, is it similar with mascotting?
So signature stuff, I think, you just got to stay away from. I had people who used to try to get to the worm before me, because it was my thing. Like, it was my thing. And people would try to get to it before me, and then all I would do was do it better. Like, some people would do it, and they did it pretty well. And then what I would do I would be doing the worm, but like doing a 360 flat spin as I did it, like kind of like a clock. So, I mean,
Right.
I would never get one upped on my signature move. But I like are kind of saying there, I'm not a big fan of trying to steal stuff from people. What I do see, and I'm better with, is performers will take skits that somebody else has done. And it's, I still to this day, somewhere sitting around here, I have my book of skits that, if I need to pull a skit just out randomly, I could probably pull it out and cater it to whatever team, whatever league that day. And a whole lot of people do that, but they bank skits from other mascots. And I think that depending on what level you are, and depending on how big that skit is, YouTube is huge, and like, or you can go on Facebook and you can randomly see like, this mascot has done that. A whole lot of people try to take those big skits, which I think is just a terrible idea. Like, there's one in particular, I can't even tell you who does it anymore, but it's Denver Nuggets, I believe, mascot, comes out with a small bear right around Valentine's Day and tries to give this girl, and she kind of rejects him, and then comes back later with like a somewhat bigger bear, and like the bears get bigger until they're the huge one, and all that. And I've seen other people do that, but like the problem is a whole lot of other people have seen, like, people outside the mascot world, like fans, have just seen this skit, and it's like, no, that's kind of funny, but like, I saw somebody else do that.
Right.
In all honesty, if you're a decent mascot, you should be able to write a skit, and you should be able to write something that goes back again to understanding your character. That might be completely outside of what your character does. You just got to understand, like, writing a skit's not hard. There's some basic things that you can do. Little kids are always cute. Doing stuff to visiting fans is generally funny, unless we do some of the stuff that we used to do back in the day and got in trouble for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got a lot of letters on that one.
Tonight on the premiere of The Shield, Vic Mackey and the latest member of the strike team teach a Motown misfit a lesson in Southern hospitality.
Yeah, there's a few that I still see, and I'm like, I don't know how we got away with that.
Oh man, we're different kinds of cops.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah. And for some reason, like, I think that skit would have been better if, like, Stormy wasn't in there. Stormy's in there smiling with the phone book going, like, it's Stormy with the phone book. If you haven't seen that skit, yes.
I'll put a clip of it in here just so people can see what we did.
Different kinds of ushers.
Come on, man. What's going on here? I'm a paid customer. What kind of ushers are you guys?
We're different kinds of ushers. Stormy.
We're different kinds of ushers. Because back then, dude, when we were doing it in 05, that 05-06 season, it was like the Wild West. Like the video, we weren't really policed. Like on anything we put up on the video board, the Jumbotron, like nobody cared about it until it aired. Like, our bosses didn't see it till it was running live on the stuff. And nobody,
pretty accurate.
Yeah, so we were doing all kind. It wasn't until like sponsors started getting involved and really, that it started to become a thing where all of a sudden we're getting policed, and people are like, hey, you can't do that.
One of the big things was that season, though. Like, that season coming out of the lockout, we were picked to be either last or second to last in the league. So, like, coming out of a lockout, we're a hockey team in the South that, you know, had made a cup run before, but like coming out of lockout and you're picked to be like at the bottom of the league. So everybody was kind of like, let's just kind of do what works. And then we just happen to be like really good. And when you're really good, you start getting a whole lot of attention, a whole lot of people in the stands. And we were doing that stuff because it was kind of like, oh, let's just have at it.
Dude, we had a new skit every single game too.
Yep.
So there was like 42 home games. We had like 42 sketches.
Yeah.
We were busy, man. We were always
the wrestling
doing...
ones.
The wrestling one was great.
Tell us about the Thunderbolts.
Let me tell you something about the Thunderbolts, brother. They're nothing but a lot of hot air. Coming down there from the South, there's nothing but hot air and hot gaseous air. And when you got a 6-foot pig with 32-inch pork thons, you don't worry about anybody, especially a paper champion like the Thunderbolts.
My favorite one still is the one where Stormy chased a Washington fan all the way back to Washington, and we ended up by the White House. And we wanted you, and it was what was going on in the world then that we were worried about.
No, so what was and
it was after 9/11, not too long.
That was the one day that I was really concerned. It wasn't the White House that was the scariest part. So Secret Service approached us at one point, and they were like, "Hey, do you guys have a video permit?" And you guys were like, "Oh no, blah blah." And they're okay. They said, and I remember they said, "Okay, you can't shoot anything on the government property, but like you can be on the street or like you can be on the public stuff and it's okay." And everybody's kind of like, okay. And then you guys wanted me to run across in front of Lincoln Memorial. And as I was running across from Lincoln Memorial, it had nothing to do with me probably, but the 3 helicopters took off at the same time, like somewhere around us. And I remember I ran across and I just kept running. I kept running to wherever the van was because I was like, I am done with this.
I remember that. We were,
because I was like, the Secret Service like knows you, because somebody said they're going to hide behind a tree with the camcorder. I'm like, you're not going to, like, the Secret Service found us. I am a large costume person running, like, and they could see your face. I mean, they could sit there and know, okay, this is Don Sill, like, know all your stuff. They have no clue who's in the costume. So I'm sitting here like, I'm going to get taken out by the Secret Service, and you guys you're going to get it on film from behind a tree.
That was great. Yeah, we had you chasing a you're in the Stormy costume, so you're this big, like, costume like pig with a hockey uniform on, chasing right through the Lincoln, right in front of Lincoln Memorial. You're chasing this guy. And we thought we would be fine because we're hiding in the trees or whatever, filming it. We're holding the camera like and then and then you ran right to the van.
I kept running.
And then you were like, I am not doing any more of this. And Pete was trying to convince you so hard.
He was very mad at me that day.
Yeah, I don't know if he might have been mad, but I know he was also just trying to, like, come on, George, just do it. Just do it.
I'm gonna have.
Yeah, you were like, no, man.
Love you, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was definitely a memory. But we ended up finishing the sketch. Instead of we just didn't have you run past the White House. We ended up running into the stadium.
Yeah, we got to the stadium, yep.
And that's how we ended it. And yeah, man, I got to find that sketch and put that in here too, so people could see that.
And the Secret Service did not shoot me, so that was
you didn't get shot by the Secret Service. And man, what a fun day that was. It was a long day. For such a little sketch, because we drove like 6 hours and all that, and and we would drive. So what we would do is we would pull over every couple of miles or whatever, and then have you chase them. So this way, when we put the video together, it looks like you're actually chasing them, from one all the way down the interstate.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Dude, that we did a lot of great sketches, man. And then even in my last couple seasons, we did some good stuff. Yep. We did the one
Hog the Bounty Hunter.
Hog the Bounty Hunter was good. We
had the lizard lick towing one.
Lizard lick towing. So the lizard lick the stars of it, and we did the I won't do that.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorites.
Hi, Stormy. What did I do?
I was there for 10 seasons. And then I left. I went over to the Mudcats, worked there for about 2 years, and went over to Atlanta. And then I was in Atlanta for 3 or 4 years, and then now back here in New York. But yeah, man, we did some good stuff, dude. Those are some good times, man. And now you're I know now you got like a different kind of job, but you're still mascotting. And where are you mascotting? You still with Holly Springs?
So I'm working in Holly Springs. That's the normal everyday job. But I'm working with a couple different organizations currently mascotting. Yes, a couple different organizations, kind of going back to the not saying too much and revealing. 2, kind of 3 organizations depending on the day. But still fairly busy. So let's see, today is Thursday. I've got games the next 3 days. I've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've got 3 different games. If you see me drinking stuff, it's actually not a delicious, I guess it almost looks like it'd be vodka cranberry or something. This is actually me hydrating, sadly enough. So yeah, still staying busy with the mascot stuff. I did the state fair mascot a couple years.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't do it this past year, but I think the 2 years prior I was doing that. I've done some Holly Springs Salamanders games, so minor league baseball there. I guess, yeah, we saw each other out there.
The kid who's in charge of I think he's doing production over there, used to work with the Mudcats with me. I can't think of his name right now. Damn, he's got a beard, young kid. He looks like me if I was like 20 years younger. I think he was his brother was a baseball player.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? I think he's But I also I wanted to see with you now that you're an older guy. You're not old, you're still about 10 years younger than me. What are you, like 40?
Call me old, it's okay.
40 something. But do you now mentor younger talent and try to teach them how to do it correctly or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. And I mean, that honestly, that started while I was still in full-time capacity, just because it was easier at that point. But I mean, a whole lot of people, I mean, you've known a few people who've come through the Mudcats as well. That's one person who I kind of tried to help. I knew him when he was still back in college.
Corey, yeah, he was.
Yep. It's one of those things of a whole lot of people. It was weird. I had people who looked up to me, and people were like, "Oh yeah, like I remember when you did this and did this." Because again, like YouTube lives, but for me, there's a whole lot of stuff that I did and I forgot about because I did it and it was normal for me. But it was really cool that I recently in the last year I had somebody who was just moved up into a MLB job, and we happened to be on some mascot chat thing together. And he was talking to me and he said, you're one of the guys I always looked up to and this and that. And it was somebody who I didn't personally know. So it's just one of those weird things of, I did have people who looked up to me and asked me questions. But in that same respect, I tell people, even to this day, it's one of those weird fields that, I can give you all the experience in the world and it's kind of up to you to make it happen. A whole lot of people look at my mascot career and think that I was really successful the whole time. And, they see the Globetrotters and they see the Hurricanes, and a whole lot of people would kill to get those jobs. And what a whole lot of people don't understand is I went for NFL jobs that I didn't get, in the midst of these. I went for NFL jobs. I went for NBA jobs. I went for different jobs. I went for NHL jobs. I went for jobs in the league that I worked in, and that a whole lot of people thought that I was great in, and I didn't get them. So it's one of those things of, I can give a ton of advice, but at the same time, I competed against, people that I would try to give advice, and I got beat out by them too. And they became great performers. So it's one of those things of, I can give a whole lot of advice as the kind of old guy, but now it's kind of fun just to look and see what the young guys are doing. And I take it in more now than I used to. I used to be kind of an out front kind of guy. But now when I perform, unless I'm like, if I'm performing at my home arena, field, whatever, and there's other mascots there, you better believe that I'm going to put on a show. But if I go somewhere else, I'm going to probably let some of the younger guys get a little bit more spotlight than I probably would have a few years ago.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like more giving now. You want to see you're passing the baton, so to speak.
It's like wrestlers, put each other over. This is me. You can do what if you need to take me out or do something funny against me, I'll put you over. It's one of those things of I've done it and I've got nothing to prove. And you might be putting a real highlight reel together that you're trying to get somewhere. I've done as much as I'm going to try to do in a full-time capacity. And I will pretty much only take mascot jobs when people call me because they need me. And nobody outside of a small area is going to call me because they need me at this point. So yeah, it's kind of like, with wrestlers, I will put you over. If you need to do something, if I can make you look good, I'm going to make you look good at this point.
When you are in the dressing room getting ready and you're putting the costume on, does it still feel the same as it did when you were 14 years old?
Yep. It's the same thing. It's probably at that point I got way more amped up though, I'd say. Even my last few years with the Hurricanes, I would sit there and I'd have my laptop in there or some kind of speaker and I'd be, blasting some music or something. But it's funny, also my last, time with the Hurricanes, I had my daughter was born. So it changed from chilling out in the locker room before I was getting ready, and getting amped up to getting amped up because my daughter was in the locker room, and now, my son gets to see me do it. My daughter grew up, her first few years in Stormy's locker room. And she would see me and she'd hand me, Stormy's head and I put it on, last thing before I went out. And now it's pretty cool that my son gets to do the same thing, but it's still that same, transition from George into, whoever it is now. And it's still just as fun. It is a beautiful thing. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it anymore because you can tell when a mascot's not having fun. And when a mascot's not having fun, they're not entertaining. The reason that I think that I was successful is everything that I did. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to mascots is go out there and do what's entertaining you. If you're having fun, don't even think about anybody watching you. What would you do right now if you could get away with anything? What would you just do? And that's a whole lot of times what I did. Like when I mess with people, when I was behind the glass banging on the glass, I did it because I could get away with it. Like I did it because it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. And if nobody else thought it was funny, I still thought it was funny. So I had at least one person who thought it was funny.
Did any players ever opposing team ever give you shit? Did they ever get mad?
I took a few sticks. I can't remember who it was or what. One team in particular one year did not like me, and I would end up being right outside of their tunnel, and I couldn't get too close. I took some jabs, but there was also visiting teams where I knew like the backup goalies really well because I'd be walking, back and forth through their locker room to get wherever I needed to. So there were guys who I literally had a pretty cool relationship with from other teams just because we saw each other that much. Same thing with the officials. But yeah, there were a few guys who were not a fan of me because I mess with them pretty good.
Yeah, it's great because you are a game changer. You could literally get in their heads. And and they're human beings. A lot of the players are focused and laser focused, but every now and again
I can distract you.
Yeah, man.
my big thing, and people still talk about it, I hear it all the time, is I would be behind the goal, and it was on our Zamboni Olympia entrance side, because I could get directly behind the goalie. And what I would try to do is do it during the second period, because then the visiting goalie was there in front of me. I would wait for the visiting team to have a power play was the best time, because we would just be clearing the puck in, and the goalie would have to come right in front of me. And that was my time to shine right there. Like, I knew cameras were on me. I knew everybody was looking at this goalie making this play, and I would just do whatever I could just to mess with that goalie. And it's one of those things of all I need is you to lose focus for 1 second and my guy gets the puck and we score. Like, do I think that I earned an assist on any goals in my career? God, no. Do I think I could have maybe, helped, a goalie or even, a D-man lose their attention or their focus for a couple seconds? Yeah.
I remember I used to bang on like,
Oh yeah,
used to go like your head,
yeah.
a whole like
Yeah.
it would go nuts, man.
I will never be on the score sheet, and I don't claim that I ever should be, but everybody does their part, and that was my thing. If I could literally get you just to look at me and focus on me instead of the play for 2 seconds, I accomplished something there.
Right on, man. Dude, this was awesome catching up with you, man. Last time I saw you was at my son's first wedding. But I also wanted to kind of dedicate this episode to Dave Olson, the late great Dave Olson. I know he was a good friend of yours. He was an amazing guy to work with and to work for, and like there's just some guys, I guess, true leaders, and kept it real. He wasn't like, he was the real deal. He was what you see is what you get. He was a blue collar guy from Pittsburgh, and just a real salt of the earth guy, the kind of guy that people would run through a wall for, and it sucks that he's gone too soon. So I don't want to get too choked up right now, but I just wanted to say, this is for him. I wasn't nearly as close to him as you were. You guys boated together and spent a lot of quality time together. I know the wives were close as well. So my condolences.
No, I appreciate you you saying something. It's Dave, just like you're saying. Dave was a guy who would do anything for anybody. And for him to have such a high position, in the organization, you would have never known it, because he would look out for anybody, but he was always about doing the right thing, no matter the situation. And actually, funny enough, big reason that I'm just hydrating with this right here, and nothing else, is so every year Dave would give up pizza and alcohol during Lent. And when he passed, and he actually did that for a friend of his who passed away a bit ago. So it's one of those things that I decided pretty early on that I was going to do that as well, just because he meant so much to me, and he when I was at his service, how much he meant to other people as well. The amount of people who showed up for him, and nobody could say anything bad about the guy. Kind of like you asked me about my Globetrotter mentor, Dio was my mentor in the sports world, and lost a big a big part of that story for me, and just a person who I could call and talk to, just a great guy all around. So I'm glad you said something, because he's left a big gap in this world that hopefully we can get together as humans and people who knew him to try to fill in that gap a little bit, but we'll never fully fill what he meant to the world. So Not to bring everybody down. Sorry, but
No,
Dave's a great guy and deserves you know, the recognition and everything. So
yes, indeed. And God bless and may you rest in peace and all that stuff. So yeah, this was dedicated to him. So yeah, George, not to leave it on a bad note. So as I always do whenever I talk about sad shit, do you have any jokes? Do you know a joke, a street joke? We could end on a joke and we'll end on a high note.
God, you know what my problem is? So like, and I guess this is a great way to end here. Like the problem is as a mascot, like I can say, I say funny stuff, but like I don't have jokes. Like I can have a conversation and just throw in something. But like my type of comedy has always been like behind a suit, not really making any like jokes, you know, out of this guy here. So that's kind of my problem. But like mid conversation, you know, I could throw in a bomb. Don Sill, I do not have a joke for you. I wish I was better prepared, or I could have just had like a random mascot head to like.
No, you rock, man. This was great to see you, bro. We gotta, you know, definitely talk more often. And yeah, I should be in North Carolina soon. I got my son's second wedding coming up in October. but I should be there in May. I got my granddaughters are all over there now. I got 2 grandkids, so I'm chugging along. But
I know a guy around here if you ever want to hang out, you know, just putting that out there. And by May I can have some drinks as well.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds like a plan. Tell everybody real quick if you want people to follow you or find you, how they can find the mascots or whatever you got going on. Is there any plugs?
So the unfortunate thing is I am pretty much a boring dude now. If you try to add me on Facebook and I don't know you, I'm probably not going to add you. Or if you're somebody that I might know and I don't really want you to follow what I'm doing, I will add you and then I'll block you, which is sadly enough 100% true. I'm a family guy now, and like I post stuff about like my family, like my kids and all that. It's nothing really awesome. My wife posted some pictures of like me dressed in green with the kids this morning. You really don't need to see that because there's nothing special. The only Twitter I ever had was Stormy's. So I don't have that anymore. So I do not have a joke, and I do not have social media for you.
There you have it, folks. George Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much, Georgie. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. It was awesome to be here, man.